Michelle, I have never seen anything like this before.
This looks like a movie set. Unfortunately, this is real.
I'm watching our house burn down on the security cameras.
We all know by now how devastating the fires in LA have been for all the people living there. But let's talk about the real estate market in particular, because there's a lot of things that will change forever. So let's start by looking at the facts of what has actually happened and taken place in the LA area. So far to date, unfortunately, 27 people have been killed in these fires. Our thoughts and prayers are definitely with those families, and hopefully something like this will never happen again. Also, about 12,000 homes have been destroyed, with an additional 3,000 other buildings and structures being completely destroyed. From a pure real estate standpoint, when you have a huge supply completely wiped out like that, it is going to absolutely change the frame and how real estate is going to be done moving forward in that area. On top of that, the value of all those homes and structures has been put at about $150 billion. Now, I was trying to think back, what could I compare this to in the US or just even across the world of devastating damage like this? Of course, we always think about Hurricane Katrina, but I went back to 2004 thinking about the tsunamis in the South Pacific and in the Indian Ocean, just to compare. 300,000 people were displaced in that. I think hundreds of thousands of people were killed. That damage was around $13 billion. Also, in these fires, at the peak of it, about 200,000 people were evacuated. Now, all of these numbers are going to come into play when we're talking about the real estate market in a minute, so stick with me. Another very interesting fact is hundreds, if not thousands of people's fire insurance was canceled days, even weeks before the fires actually took place. Now, we're not going to get into conspiracy theories, but I'd still like to hear from you on why you think the insurance companies did this. So one thing that is happening because of all the people evacuating, people's homes being destroyed, is investors, greedy investors are taking advantage of this, and they are doubling, sometimes even tripling rent in these areas. Now, mind you, in the LA area, the average 2-bed goes for around $3,600. So if you're doubling that or even tripling that, you could easily be talking about 8 to 12 grand in rent every month. That's not a yearly rent. That's not every 4 months. That's every single month. And unfortunately, it doesn't get better because Airbnbs are doing the same thing. Who are we going to blame for this being allowed to happen? I know some people are going to say the government. Some people are going to say, they don't like the governor there, Newsom. Some people are going to say, oh, maybe it was Biden. Some people saying Trump's going to fix it. We're not going to get into the politics of all that, but let me know down below, what do you think of all this? Personally, I think the government should step in and prevent investors from doing this, because this can absolutely destroy people's lives. So some of the biggest problems outside of the rent control that people are being faced with is very simply, there's no place to live. In some of these high density, really crowded areas like you have in California, supply is already extremely low. And with the demand for good, affordable housing being at an all-time high, this just makes that problem even worse. It is economy 101. If you have a very, very high supply and a very low demand, those prices are going to be really, really cheap. But if you have a really, really low supply and a high demand, and then all of a sudden that already low supply gets even lower, and people are going to be able to charge whatever they want because people will have to pay for it. Another huge problem that people are facing is they're now all of a sudden stuck with high rent to pay, but guess what? They still have a mortgage on a house that does not exist. So my biggest question is going to be to either the government, the banks, or insurance companies. Are insurance companies going to pay and just step up and pay for these houses to be rebuilt? Is the government going to provide assistance? Or are the banks going to forgive these loans and just say you can walk away, no penalty, no bankruptcy, no foreclosure, just walk away from it? What is going to happen is the big question. If the banks say, no, we have a legal right to our money, your insurance company dropped it, tough luck, well then you're going to be stuck with a huge amount of foreclosures on property that has no house. So the bank is going to want a certain amount of money, but they're forgetting that that property was valued with a house on it. Most of those houses have been destroyed, so it's purely land. So what does this mean moving forward for that real estate market? Because there is a lot that is going to happen over the next months and coming years. Well, like I said earlier, if the insurance isn't going to step up and pay, then people are going to be forced to look into the government for their help, their state or federal government, things like FEMA. They're going to be looking to them for a lot of aid. Or the other thing that these people could probably do is just sell their land for whatever they could try to get for it. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who won't be able to sell because what they're going to sell it for, they're not going to be able to pay off their current loan. But hopefully they'll be able to at least maybe refinance that loan. Maybe the banks will forgive. Maybe there's something that the banks can do to work with these people to get some of the money back. One thing that could happen is investors could come in and buy up that land, but the governor did put something in place to where investors cannot come and solicit these people for their lands. Now, they can sell to investors. Investors just can't come to the people and say, hey, let me buy your land. One thing that I think is very important that could be a huge opportunity for this area is if everyone could work together, insurance companies, the government, state, local, everyone. Potentially, this could be an opportunity to build more affordable housing. Like I said earlier, there's already a huge shortage in housing in these big areas, so why not band together, save the community, and at the same time build more affordable housing. Now, what can people like investors like me do in these areas? Honestly, at this point, the best thing we could probably do is absolutely nothing. Don't go in, try to buy land for cheap. Don't go in, try to get a deal or anything like that, because people are going to suffer if you do that. I think people in those areas, investors in those areas, or even big investors way wealthier than me should be able to step up, come in, give aid, and help these people rebuild. And I will give props to the governor who put that law in place that prevents investors from being bullies and coming in and buying up land and soliciting their land. Now, like I said, this is totally devastating, and we hope something like this doesn't happen again because people's lives are at stake here. But there could be a silver lining, like I said, where if things are done correctly, the entire market could be reshaped in a positive way.